Marie, for, like, she is all over the place. She's amazing. But thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, hey y'all. Hey. How's it going? Good. Anybody in here have a house? Live in a house?
Just bought a new one.
Just bought a new one? Awesome. Anybody ever been to a house? No? Okay. Anybody thought about buying a house? Yeah? Everybody, let's see, something else. Anybody know anybody with a mortgage on their house?
Yes.
Y'all know what a mortgage is?
Yeah, you know what
Usually, since about 1922, when you started buying houses, people didn't start paying with cows and money anymore. We started getting mortgages because we were buying houses we couldn't just afford. Okay? So a mortgage is what is attached to your house that says you got to pay that bank back or they're taking the house back. The mortgage, the note, also determines what you pay every month. Anybody in here ever rented a house? Ever rented a house? I used to rent a house. I paid $500 a month for that house. And guess how much my landlord got to keep out of that $500? 50? Anybody else have a guess? 200? Any other guesses? 500 bucks? 100? My landlord kept $500 out of the $500 that I gave her every month because she paid cash for that house. She didn't have a mortgage on it. So I grew up thinking you needed cash to buy houses if you're going to get rich. Anybody else think you need money to buy houses? Yeah? Okay, my landlord was my mom. Just so we're clear. Ever since I was, who's our youngest girl? Ever since I was little bitty, like before I was even thought of, my mom was buying houses. But she'd buy a house and she'd live in it and she'd get it paid off. And then she'd save up some money, go buy another house and live in it. And then she got really clever and she started just buying houses and not living in them. She put somebody else in there so that that other person was paying her back for her investment. Does that make sense to everybody? Well, the thing was, when I got started in real estate, I didn't have any money. I was 25. How much money do you have when you're 25? Like 25 bucks? Maybe on a good day. So I had graduated from UT, and I was working at my family's trucking company because when I graduated high school, I got to tell you this story too. I graduated from Powell High School, which is a little country high school outside of Knoxville. And I graduated in 2003. My mom made $19,000 a year the year I graduated high school. It's not a whole lot of money, y'all. 19 grand a year, not a lot of money. So that's why it was so important for her to have this real estate portfolio, because every 3 or 4 or 5 years, every little penny she could scrounge, she was a hustler. And she would go to auctions on Saturdays. And if she'd saved up 20 grand in a couple years, she'd buy a house for 20 grand. And then she'd let somebody move in it. And she'd collect $500 a month until she got her money back. And then she'd use that money again and go buy another one. Right? So when that money came in every month, that's what we used for like fast food. That's what we used for my college. That's what we used to buy cars. My dad was a hustler too. He would go buy cars, junk cars. He'd change the oil. He'd wash them really good. He'd take pictures of them and he'd put them back in the newspaper and sell them for 2 or 3 times as much money. All right? My parents were both hustlers. And they knew that if we were going to have something, they had to go work for it. Right? Well, I was 25 and I was like, I've graduated college. I got a degree. I'm working for the family company. And I'm making $24,000 a year. Which is pretty good for right out of college. But my mom had already hit the top of the ceiling at $19,000. I'm already making more than she is just because I got a degree. How am I gonna make big money? How am I gonna make real money? And how am I going to start getting people to pay me every month without having to go to work? Like, these are my goals in life. This is what, like, kept me up at night. Not wondering about what normal 25-year-olds are thinking about. How am I going to get rich? Right? How am I going to retire? How am I going to go to Mexico and have it paid for?
I planned that girl on a Sunday and left on Friday.
Yes. So I told my mom, I was like, all right, so she's collecting all these rent checks and she puts them in the bank. And I was like, how do I do that, Mom? She said, well, you got to go buy something. She didn't sit me down and talk about Robert Kiyosaki. She didn't talk about cash flow. She didn't talk about like all these fantastic things that real estate people talk about. She was like, I figured it out. You can go figure it out. Awesome. Thanks, Mom. Y'all seen the video of the like mama dog and she's got all the puppies and she's trying to teach them how to go up the stairs and then she whacks one back down the steps? That's kind of how my mom taught me about real estate. She was like, I'm up here at the top of the steps. Come figure out how to get here. Because that's how she learned. Right? And I love my mom. I absolutely adore my mom. And I thought, fine, I'll join the Real Estate Investors Association. These people are investing all the time. So the very first night I went to a real estate seminar, which is full of boring old white guys. You've been to one. I was like, where are the women? Because in my world, my mom was the real estate investor. Where are the women? Why are all these old dudes here? And I figured out pretty quickly is because they were speaking a different language. And I had a real estate license by this point, and I was like, I don't understand anything y'all are saying. They had a special presentation like 2 weeks after the first time I went, and it was all about lease options. Anybody know what a lease option is? Yeah? Good. I usually get a... Okay? So, because I was 25, I thought I knew everything about everything there was to know in life. I was the top woman. What did your pad of paper say? I was the ultimate woman. I was 25. I was unstoppable. Right? I might have been 26 or 27 by this point. And it was going to be $75 to go to this seminar. But what had happened that summer is because my mom told me just to figure it out, I started going and buying houses without a plan, without a strategy, without comps, nothing. I took my entire life savings, everything that I'd saved from birthday parties, graduations, everything, and I bought a house. And I put somebody in it, and they were renting from me, but they had my whole life savings. And then I found another house that I wanted to buy. So what do you do if you don't have any money, but you find another really good deal, even though you don't know what a good deal is? What do you do? You borrow your brother's money. You take his whole life savings, and you put it into another house that ends up having problems. We'll just leave it at problems. And while I'm on the shopping spree, I, in my early 20s, would go to auctions on Saturdays just because my mom used to go to auctions, but she'd buy houses. I would buy the furniture out of the house. And I would have my brother and whatever boy I was dating at the time, one of my 6, right? They were all the same. I would have my brother and my boyfriend go pick up the furniture that I'd bought, and then I'd put it in my house, I'd stage it and make it look cute, I'd put it up on Craigslist, and I'd sell it. So I'd double my money, like my dad used to do with cars. Then I figured out I could buy cars, and I could flip the cars like my dad used to do. So I was doing that. Then I thought, wait a second, my mom has this dump truck company. I bet I could buy dump trucks and flip them. And dirty old men like talking to me. And guess who buys dump trucks? Dirty old men. They love me. They came in from everywhere and bought my dump trucks. But because I keep evolving, I keep learning, I keep growing, I thought, all right, next time I sell 3 trucks, I'm going to keep all that money. I'm going to go buy another piece of land. Because this is the only way I was funding all this stuff at this point. I was like working, hustling. I was reinvesting every penny I could, every day I could, every hour I could. Like I was on a mission to figure something out. So I bought a piece of land and paid $1,500 for this first piece of land that I bought. Well, the second piece of land I bought. And I found out that the people next to me, y'all ever had neighbors? My neighbors were driving on my land to get to the back of their land. So I went to these guys. It's a Fortune 500 company, and I went bebopping in there like, hey! And they're like, what do you want, little girl? And I said, y'all are driving on my driveway, I want some rent. And they were like, yeah, no. Don't know you, we've been driving on this driveway since 1992. I'm not paying you any rent. Well then, I'm gonna put up a fence because that's my driveway. And they said, we're gonna have it surveyed. We'll find out whose driveway it is. So they called me back. I was talking to like the main guy at this Fortune 500 company. And they called me back in 2 weeks. The secretary called me back because again, I'm just this little girl. I'm not important enough for the guys, right? Miss Nicely, we're driving on your driveway and we'd like to pay you $250 a month. And I was like, I'm not really good at math, I'm from PAL. How much is 250 into 1,500? Like, how long will that take me to get all my money back? Okay, what if I do take your $250 a month? I've had this land for 6 months. Will you pay me back rent from all the time that I've had it? See, when I was hustling and I was selling cars and furniture, I was learning how to negotiate. Because it's always a step. It's always a step. It's always learning. It's always growing. She said, it's a Fortune 500 company. She was like, that'd be like $1,500. And I was like, yeah. She was like, yeah, we'll pay you $1,500. Boom, I got all my investment back the first time they wrote me a check. And I was like, okay. And I got taxes and insurance on this thing. So will you pay my taxes and insurance on this every year? She was like, how much are they? I was like, $50. She was like, yeah, that's fine. We'll pay for like 3 or 4 years in advance. And I was like, okay, good. Okay, so now I've got 2 houses and a driveway that I'm renting, right? I'm like a little mogul, okay? And that's when I found the Real Estate Investors Association. And the second night that I was going to these meetings, the president, Victor Jernigan, said, we're going to have a special presentation about lease options. I want y'all to come. And I was like, nah, dude, like, my mom taught me how to buy houses with cash. All I got to do is wait another 10 years so I get another lump sum of cash. And then I'll buy another house. And then, you know, eventually, by the time I'm 115, I'll have like 10 houses. He was like, Whitney, I really want you to come to this lease option seminar. And I was like, well, how much is it? He said $75. And I was like, okay, I just bought 1 house. I got it rented. I don't have my money back on that. I bought a driveway, and I'm almost making money on that. But I got this other house that's falling down a mountainside that had bad pipes, no air conditioning, because I didn't know to check. Who builds houses without air conditioning? Who buys houses that are old that doesn't check to find out if there is air conditioning? These are all my mistakes that I don't want y'all to make, okay? I was like, Victor, I don't have $75 to come learn this. I know everything I need to know about real estate. That's what youth gets you. He said, if you'll come and don't learn anything, I'll give you your $75 back. And I was like, all right, old man, I'm in. I will be there. I went, and within 15 minutes, the guy teaching lease options, who was another boring old white guy, had like made $100,000 on like 2 or 3 deals in 15 minutes. And I was like, I need to know everything I can find out about lease options. So, what is a lease option? If you know somebody, y'all said you knew somebody with a mortgage on their house, right? If that person decides they want to rent their house, is that weird? Y'all know people that rent houses and they have mortgages, right? If your person with a mortgage on their house decides they want to sell their house, is that weird? No. Not weird at all. So a lease option is where you rent the house with the opportunity to buy it in the future. It's different than a lease purchase. A lease purchase says you are most definitely buying this thing in the future. A lease option says I can pull the woman card and change my mind. we like options. Right, ladies? Okay. So, I put $3,000 on my credit card that night that I did not have. I had to up my limit. I went head first, whole hog, into lease options. I took myself to Jacksonville, Florida for 2 weeks, took off from work. I had to tell my papa that I was going to go to Florida to figure out real estate and needed to take 2 weeks off from my job that I'd had for like less than 2 or 3 years. I mean, I didn't have vacation time yet. He said, whatever you got to do. So I went and I started learning. And I came back on Valentine's Day. Came back home on Valentine's Day. By February 28th, I was sitting in a seller's kitchen, and they had bought a house. They were older. They bought a house as their retirement house. And then their daughter came home pregnant, and the house wasn't big enough for 4 people. So this is a time problem, right? They didn't have a money problem. They didn't have anything except a time problem and an energy problem. They had to go, and they had to go fast. So I told them on the last day of February, I said, look, if y'all will leave and I can have this house, I'll buy it for what you owe on it. I'll make your mortgage payment. It'll only take me like 5 years to pay you off. And they said, when will you start making our mortgage payment? Because we can't rent and make this mortgage payment forever. And I said, it'll take 3 months. Okay, so you make the payment March, April, and May. I'll start making the payment in June. And they said, okay, fine. And they were out of the house in like a week. I put the house up on Zillow, and I said, hey, I got this house for sale, and we're going to lease option it. A couple out of Chicago called and said, hey, we want to buy that house. I said, great, I'd love to sell it. I bought it for $122. That's what they owed on it. I put it up on Zillow for $145. I thought, I'm going to make some sweet money on my first deal, right? And they said, will you take $135? Again, I'm from Powell. $135. I got it for $122. $13,000. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. I said, but the thing is, I don't want to just wait on your house to sell. Like, I'm going to have these payments that are going to start coming due. So if it takes a year or two for your house to sell, you got to rent this house from me in the meantime. And they said, no problem. So they came down to Knoxville, Dandridge actually. They gave me a check. The first day they ever met me, they gave me a check for $3,000. They paid March, April, and May's rent in advance. And I didn't have a payment until June, right? So I made $3,000 because I didn't have any money going back out. And then they called me the next day and they said, hey, guess what? Our house in Chicago got a contract on it. We're going to close the 1st of May. We'll be able to cash you out $135 May 4th or 5th. And I was like, okay. But we'll see. There's inspections, there's appraisals, there's lots of things that can go wrong in real estate, right? Y'all, they did. They cashed me out. They brought me a cashier's check for $135. We closed out the whole deal. I made $15,000 in 8 weeks. And I only made $25 a year, $24 a year. In 2 months, I made a shit ton of money, right? I didn't have my credit. I didn't have any money in the deal. I didn't have to talk to a banker. Nothing. So we've learned our whole life that you got to have good credit. You got to have 10%, 20% to put down. You got to have a good job. You got to look great on paper. And I didn't do any of that. I didn't use my license, nothing. And it changed my whole world. 3 weeks later, I did another deal, not like that, but very similar. I did a lease option deal. I made another $8,000. 4 weeks later, I made $5,000. In 9 months, I made $140,000 by taking over people's payments, not giving them any money, not having anybody run my credit, and having other people pay me $10,000, $15,000, $40,000 to move into my houses. Anybody excited? Yeah? So the next thing that people want to ask, so you can do this. I've done this 57 times in like 2.5 years. Who is going to agree to this? There's not that many people that have retirement homes and their daughter comes home knocked up, right? mean, that just doesn't happen every day. You can't just look for those people. It happens more than you think. So I started talking, what did I want to be? I wanted people to pay me every month, right? I wanted to be the landlord. I wanted to make $500 a month, because how many times do I need to do that to replace my 9 to 5? Not very many, turns out. So when I started, I thought, well, these people were really nice, and they didn't want to be a landlord. They didn't want to rent their house. That's why they wanted me to come in, because I was going to be a professional tenant, professional renter, and then I just sublet for these other people to move in. I wonder if there's anybody that's tired of being a landlord, and they got houses and they still want the income, but they don't want the headaches anymore. So we start talking about your ideal client, your red carpet client, your avatar. I figured out that I could talk to landlords who were already in real estate. I could tell them that I wanted to be them when I grew up, which was true, still true. And I could get them involved in my story. And they could keep their asset, but I could manage it and still make that $500 a month on top. Does that make sense? I'm stepping in, just like we were talking about earlier, where you broker, you find a wholesale, and you go out and you buy it. The problem with that is you got to put all your money in to buy that inventory, right? I was brokering the deal, but not putting any money in. Not putting my credit in, not putting my name on the line, not doing anything. And still making some serious, serious money. Until I figured out that if I keep these houses, because I was giving them all back to the sellers, if I could make $10,000 for somebody to move into this house and make $300 a month on each one of them, just $300 between what my mortgage payment was and what I could rent it for, if I did one deal a month for 2 years, I'd make $7,200 a month. Plus that $10,000 people were paying me to move in, $240,000. That was 10 years of my salary down into 2. And then I'd have 10 houses that I was, or 24 houses that I was renting out. So I went at this because I was bored, because I wanted money every month, and because I could use what God gave me to talk to people who needed help, who had problems, who didn't want to deal with tenants and toilets anymore. They just wanted money. So when you find tired landlords, when you find people that have houses that are empty, I don't deal, I mentioned the F word earlier. I don't deal with foreclosures, because those people want money and they want stacks of paper on you and everything. I don't deal with that. So when I find people that say, you know what, we're in April right now, right? So I figured out my next people that I was going to try to target, not just tired landlords, and definitely not people behind on their payments. But I wanted people that were looking at July and August and knew that they were going to have to skip their family vacation so they could make their mortgage payment. I wanted people that knew they couldn't upgrade their car or couldn't throw a graduation party because they needed their mortgage payment. So they weren't behind, but they were really close. A lot of women, when they get divorced, get the house. They lose their job, they lose their side hustle, they lose their house, right? Then they lose their credit, and then it all just snowballs. So I started talking to women, saying, I can start making this payment for you, you just got to go. You pay 3 more months, and that's what people like about me instead of agents, because an agent will say, hey, I'm going to put your house on the market, we're going to see how long it lasts, I'll sell it as fast as I can. I say, make 3 more payments, so you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'll make that 4th. It'll take me 5 or 10 years for you. This will come off your credit. It's all staying in your name. But still, having that deadline, you want to talk about the weight of the world being off your shoulder? It's amazing when that happens. And woman to woman, they would tell me, a man already offered me more than that. A man already offered me less than that. Blah, 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 blah. But I'm going to give it to you, because I think you really care, because you're going to be able to help me, because you took the time. And a lot of other investors are going to tell you that you got to talk to 18,000 people every single week, and you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this. And as women, we already have 18 jobs. I don't need another one. And this is all about your side hustle, right? You can do real estate investing on the side because these little buttons, they're ugly, they're cheesy, and they work, right? Right? They totally work because you're in the bank, you're in the grocery store, you're at practice, you're at dance recital, you're at whatever, and people will come up to you and they'll say, "What kind of houses do you buy?" And they'll start confessing to you because they're ashamed. They know they're supposed to be taking care of this. They know this, they know that, but for whatever reason, they've just let this house slide down the mountain. And you become the person that can save them. And there's some serious power in that. Anybody have any questions? Let's see if I lost anybody along the route. Not only can you buy houses this way, I'll tell you another little story. So I was buying these houses, and I was getting all this money coming in, and I didn't go to Vegas, and I didn't go to Mexico on the money I was making. Instead, I paid off my most expensive house. I saved up all this money. I paid off my most expensive house. And then I took out a line of credit against that house. So I had $100,000 that was just sitting in a house. I took out a line of credit of that. I used that $100,000 to buy 3 apartment complexes. So now I have 19 units in 3 complexes that pay me $10 grand a month. Plus the 15 houses that I have. So, as a side hustle, I'm telling y'all, 1 deal a month in 2 years could be an extra $240,000. That's an extra 10 grand a month. And then after that, you're routinely making $7,200. You do it for 3 years, you're making 10 grand a month every single month just for checking your bank account. Then you can borrow against all that. This is what we call leverage. You borrow against all of that to buy other places or to become a private money lender. Because I'm not using my money. I've already got these houses. I've already done this work. These things are paying me. But instead of having a house free and clear and the money just sitting there, you can take that money and let other people go buy houses and make 10 or 12%. You can take that money and you can go buy apartment complexes. You can go buy whatever because you don't need the money. You just need to have access to the money. And it takes a hustle and it takes some work. But I promise, if this little girl from Powell can do it, y'all can too. And you can find all the leads that you need on social media. I know, we had to talk about that earlier. My best deals have come from friends and family. They saw me hustling, they saw me working, and they wanted to help. They wanted to be part of my story. Everybody likes the HGTV shows, right? But nobody has the balls to actually go out there and flip a house except me. So they would send me leads, and I wouldn't have to be everywhere. I would just say, hey, if y'all see a for sale by owner sign, or you see an empty house, or you know somebody who has an empty house, maybe they inherited it, send it my way. I can send them money every single month from now until forever if they want it. So, use your friends, use your online friends. Every seller that you need, every buyer that you need is on Facebook. I'm a huge fan of Facebook. I even have stock in it. I love it. That's me, for sure. Because there's like 9 billion people there. Those people have houses. And it costs you no money to get in front of them. Anybody have any questions now? There's other ways that you can get in front of these sellers. Yes, absolutely.
I have a question. So when you're taking over the mortgage for someone who pretty much let you take over their mortgage, once the house is sold, is the house still in their name?
Yes.
So that pretty much helps their credit, but you own the home, so do you guys do like some type of paperwork?
We do the lease option. So I have a really fancy rental agreement that gives me the right to buy the house in 5 or 10 years.
Okay.
So the title stays in their name, the mortgage stays in their name. I send the payment straight to the bank. They can log into their bank account or their mortgage account and see that I made the payment every single month. They do it twice and then they don't care anymore. They check 2 months in a row and then they don't care anymore. And then I don't have to give them any money to do these deals because they don't need any money. They've already left. It was an investment house for them anyway. They don't care about it. And there's lots of people out there who just don't care about their houses. The house you live in, y'all are in there, you're all nested down in there, right? You decorated it. You're raising the babies there. But there's lots of houses out there that people have no attachment to. And those are the people that you're looking for. Because it's really, houses are strategically placed sticks and bricks. It takes a woman to make them a home. And if she's not living there, she wants that money out of it. I promise. I promise that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I got this figured out.
Okay.
Gotta know. Because I'm trying to retire
Yep.
in 10 years.
Yep.
Okay? I will be 49.
Yep.
And I'm going to be done.
Yep.
But rich.
Yep.
Okay. So this is how I'm doing it. Okay. So you're leasing the home from someone
Mm-hmm.
as a lease option.
Mm-hmm.
But you're taking the option to find another buyer
Mm-hmm.
to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
So then you keep the money,
Yep.
the extra money.
Yep.
Got it.
So I make money. I make money 3 different ways because when I buy this house, I don't give them any money down. I have 3 months to make the payment, and I'm buying it for whatever they owe on it. Whatever their mortgage is, that's what I'm paying. But I'm getting 5 or 10 years before I have to cash out that mortgage. You got me? It's a really long lease. So then I find people,
Because they have someone leasing it.
they get their monthly payment made, which is all they care about.
That's all they care.
That's all they care about. And around in Clarksville, y'all got military people, they gotta go. I'm telling y'all, y'all are in a sweet honey hole. Okay? So I find people that have bad credit. Anybody know anybody with bad credit? I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about your friends. Your friends got bad credit, right? I find people with bad credit, or they had a divorce, or they had a bankruptcy, or they're a small business owner. Banks hate small business owner because we're more risky than somebody who goes to a 9 to 5 every day. Molly, we were talking about Molly earlier. Molly makes 7 figures a year. She makes over $1 million every single year. She was trying to buy a $430,000 house, and the bank denied her a loan because she was self-employed.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense. But
You could buy cash and they still won't give it to you.
you could buy cash and they still won't give it to you, absolutely. So if you have people who just started their small business, they're even more risky than somebody that's had it for 10 years. So a lot of my houses, a lot of my people that come in, they need 2 years because sometimes small business owners, I don't know anybody like this, and don't raise your hand if you do either, but they don't actually claim everything they make. So they need a year or 2 to kind of clean up their paperwork so they can get a mortgage. All right? And I'm the only one in town that's willing to work with these people. I'll give them, where I have 5 or 10 years before I have to cash out my seller, I give my buyers 1 or 2 years. So I can go through 2, 3, 4, 8 of them, and they all give me at least 10 grand to move in. I'm buying $100,000 houses. I can almost pay the house off in 10 years with their option fees. Plus, they pay, if my payment's $800, they'll pay me $1,100 or $1,200 every single month. So that's the second way I make money. They pay me to move in. They pay me extra every month. And then if I bought the house for $100, but it's worth $120, I'm going to make that $20 when they get their mortgage. Or if it's 4 or 5 years and I've had 4 or 5 different people come through, I'm going to owe $80. The house is still worth $120. Now I'll make $40. I'll tell you, out of 57, I've only had one person get a mortgage. So I'm really working for those front end paydays, those non-refundable option fees, $10,000, $40,000, all of that. Yep.
So when you lease it to someone else, are you doing with them lease option or lease purchase?
I'm doing a lease option with them.
Okay.
I do a lease option. So I do, it's sandwich lease options, and I've got pink boxes over there. That's for First Deal Done Fast. That's my program where I teach women how to do this, like actually step by step by step by step. That's what I teach, First Deal Done Fast. Because once you get that first deal, it's a lot easier to do the second deal, and the third deal, and the 18th deal. But in First Deal Done Fast, we do slows, sandwich lease options with Whitney.